Yo, what's up, internet? It's your boy Vaughn B. I saw this particular video a few days ago, and I wanted to kind of add my 2 cents to it. It's an interesting take on what's going on in the gaming industry right now. So let's get into it. All right, so this is a video called Western Games Are Doomed. It is from the background NPC. She's been getting a little bit of play lately, and she just kind of popped up into my feed. So that's it. Check it out.
So I'm very much a homebody, almost embarrassingly so, and weekends are when I have the most time to dive into whatever game I'm currently playing through. Up until about 3 weeks ago, that was Clair Obscur, which, yes, I finally beat. But this
Yeah, stop. I don't know why I stopped playing that game. It was pretty good.
weekend was no different. It's midnight on Friday night, and I'm working my way through Stellar Blade while my half-started copy of First Berserker Kazan is staring at me from my backlog. And as I was running around Zion, something just clicked. Both of these games have super fun, fluid combat. Both have very attractive protagonists. Both nail that one more try addiction that keeps you glued to your screen, and they're both Korean made. As I realized this, it hit me. When did Korean developers quietly start dropping all these bangers? I started looking into it, and I guess this has just gone completely under my radar, but developers from China and Korea, places that historically haven't made double or AAA titles, have really been knocking it out of the park lately. And obviously, Japan has always had their share of home runs too. But
Western cultures, we have decided to give in to the PC crowd and listen to a bunch of people who don't actually play games. Whereas Eastern companies, Japan, China, Korea, and all that, have not. And those games are still being made by people who like games. If you ever listen to anybody who actually works for Nintendo Japan, they love games. That's all. Like, it's the way that it comes across when you listen to them during their press conferences for what used to be E3, that kind of thing. They don't come across as corporate people that they put in the front to talk about games, as opposed to Western games. Like when you watch a Microsoft press conference, do any of those people who talk a lot give you any impression that they play games? No.
these days, with how expensive games are becoming and with how awful some of our choices are, this really means a lot. We're naturally gravitating towards the games that respect our time and money, and over the past couple years, Eastern developers have been pulling us in like a black hole, and I'm loving it. It's no secret that Elden Ring and the Soulsborne formula have
But Elden Ring, they managed to keep the Souls formula, make it accessible for people to get into, and it's like it's not easier, but it is easier. It's like I don't know how to describe that, but it allows you to get your character stronger so that you can progress further into the game, as opposed to most Souls games. They don't really do that. So that is their way of being more accessible without diminishing what the game's true core is.
Inspired many of these Eastern developers, and how could they not? Elden Ring was a cultural phenomenon, and yes, I've seen gamers claim Souls-like fatigue, but I think that fatigue only happens when the games are bad. So just like what Mr. Gunn said, it's really just bad game fatigue. Here's the thing though, these Eastern developers saw the genuine love and excitement people had for this genre and thought, we can make something players will love too. Most recently, we saw this with Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. Yeah, there were optimization issues at launch, but you can still see that this smaller team was genuinely trying to make something they thought would resonate with players. And since launch, they've apologized, they've released patches, and they've even given away in-game loot.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a game made by gamers for gamers. That's another one that I want to try too.
Come on, they're obviously doing their best and working for us. They made this game for us, the players, and they want us to enjoy it and love it. That's the difference. Some developers are genuinely trying to make games with us in mind, and others just aren't. And the crazy thing is that these Eastern developers haven't discovered some secret formula. They're not doing anything new or groundbreaking. They're just getting back to the basics, making games that respect players and want them to have fun. So all of this got me thinking about the state of our industry. What is happening with Western developers and how are they so far behind their Eastern counterparts? Now,
well, one of the things I could tell you is they have been completely bought out by corporations. Corporations do not care about the end product. They just care about content and selling you something. They don't care if the game sucks. That's why they keep cranking out basketball like NBA 2K and Madden and all that stuff year after year after year after year, because the people who are fans of that seem to take whatever slop is put in front of them if it's a basketball game or a football game, because they really don't have any other options. So that's one. And while there are corporations in the East, they don't seem to operate the same way as they do out here.
well, before we get into the whole East versus West thing, let's be real. The gaming industry is getting squeezed from every direction. We've now got credit card companies trying to censor gaming content, games disappearing when servers shut down, hence the Stop Killing Games initiative, rising development costs making everyone risk-averse, live service pressure from investors, the prioritization of modern ideology over good gameplay, and us just paying more than ever for games that we don't actually own.
All of those are corporate nonsense that are being placed into something that, in order to survive, needs to go back to being a niche. Like when games were a niche, corporations didn't really care. They had some larger companies that got involved, but not a lot. So we got the kind of games that we missed, and the ones that are mostly in Eastern games. Yeah, so everything she just listed, that's all corporate nonsense placed in these games.
Our industry is getting hit from all sides. Eastern developers, Western developers, everyone's facing the same stuff one way or another. But how these developers respond is what tells you everything. When faced with the challenges, some developers are doubling down on actually caring about us, the players, because they understand we're the ones who can actually help them succeed, while others have just stopped listening to us entirely. So let's do a little dissecting of what the West has been up to. Now, be warned, it's a little bit depressing, but don't worry, we'll get through it together. And then we'll look at how Eastern developers are truly.
It's not that depressing. It's just that what will eventually happen is just like what's happening now. People are not buying that stuff. People aren't going to see those movies. People aren't watching those television shows. And these corporations who only care about money will be forced to change. It's just kind of how this works. So hopefully there be some sort of gaming culture left when that happens, but
really here to save the day and how not all hope is lost. Going back through gaming history, it's such a bummer because there was a time when Western AAA developers actually worked to make games with us in mind. You could truly feel that they really cared about what we wanted. Remember Assassin's Creed 2? Ubisoft spent years reconstructing Renaissance Italy with historian-level accuracy, all while giving us a beloved protagonist and story that made you care about the world even more. It wasn't just for profit or to push some agenda. The team behind the game clearly had pure love and passion for what they were making, and it was obvious that they wanted the players to enjoy it. BioWare.
Keep in mind, most of these examples that she's probably going to give are from people who no longer work at these companies. Yeah, those were when these companies were smaller, and those people who wanted to do all those things eventually got frustrated and or pushed out.
Used to obsess over connecting with players. They'd spend months, years perfecting conversation systems and Mass Effect and Dragon Age because they understood that's how we bond with the characters. Thousands of lines of dialogue, branching narratives that actually mattered. It was all because they knew that's what their players would love. And Rockstar, their track record speaks for itself. GTA, Red Dead Redemption, they are making games 100% catering to the player's experience, which is why I'm really hoping GTA 6 doesn't disappoint. But across the board, I
don't know, a lot of folks at Rockstar left too, so
back through gaming history, there are so many examples of games that were made by people who wanted to bring players joy. You could feel the love in every mechanic, every system, every decision. Western AAA gaming was in its golden age. So what happened? Well, looking at the state of the industry right now, it's clear that so many studios have replaced respect and passion with greed, contempt, laziness, and just nonsense. They started shipping broken games at full prices that continue to creep up, cramming in microtransactions and live service monetization, expecting us to pay for unfinished products, then buy the rest as DLC. They've let cultural pressure override what we actually want. Now character designs have to go through committees that are terrified of making anyone attractive or appealing. They prioritize poorly executed modern ideologies over actual compelling narratives and characters. Everything they do at this point is for what the modern audience desires, but
pretty much everything she's listing is in evidence in pretty much everything from TV, movies, books. Have you tried, and like if you like science fiction novels, have you tried reading any of them right now? Most of which are romance novels disguised as science fiction books. Like the shipping broken games, that happens because you have to get the game out at a certain time so that it helps with your quarterly report or whatever. So it doesn't matter that the game is finished, it has to get out. So 2K has to come out on the like NBA 2K has to come out at the exact same time every year before the NBA preseason and all that stuff starts. Doesn't matter if the game is finished, none of that matters. It is we have to get it out and we'll fix it after.
Where are they? Where is this audience and why aren't they buying these games? I mean, just look at the lineup over the last few years. The Concord team allegedly spent well over their $200 million budget just to make both a game and characters that appealed to no one. And then they shut down after 2 weeks. Dragon Age the Veilguard was—
The funniest thing about the Concord game was all the women were dressed like they were in some Islamic country. And pretty much most of the men had no shirt on or very skimpy outfits. It's like the craziest thing. It's like all the women had full, like up to the wrist, up to the neck costumes, but you didn't see no skin at all. They were very androgynous looking. All of the men, bulky, muscle bound dudes with no shirt on. And it's like the craziest thing. I don't know who they're trying to not offend, who would be offended by any of this. I'm confused by that.
Was in development for 10 years and somehow still launched with insanely awkward and lecture-heavy dialogue in a game where dialogue is everything. The Saints Row reboot, with over $100 million budget, completely ignored fan concerns and just steamrolled ahead to failure. And
they took all the Saints Row stuff out of the Saints Row game.
Ultimately, the developer's demise. And don't even get me started on Ubisoft. Star Wars Outlaws only sold 1 million copies in its first month, despite their massive marketing spend, causing their stock to crash to a 10-year low. Then there's Assassin's Creed Shadows and Skull and Bones. Flop after flop with these same awful formulas, costing the company over $178 million in losses for the last year. And their CEO keeps making these tone-deaf comments about it all. He can't be stopped. The list goes on and on. Suicide Squad, Redfall. What's the result of all of this? Mass layoffs across the industry, studios shutting down, and these companies bring all of this upon themselves. They cut corners, push low-effort development, and chase that mythical modern audience instead of truly serving the players who are actually supposed to buy their games. Studios that have been around for decades are getting shut down.
All right, to give some explanation to that, a lot of, BlackRock and a lot of investors, they are tying in to you getting money is you have to get a certain it's not a woke, I don't know the exact term for it, but it's like imagine a woke score, right? So if you're whatever fits into the woke score, right? The amount of diversity, the amount of whatever, and you have to hit a certain number, and it allows you to get a better loan. So you have to put all this stuff in your stuff. That's why you're seeing it in everything, because that is going away, because regardless to how everything works, at the end of the day, they need to make money. So they didn't make any money. So all that is kind of, that's why you're starting to see that drift away, because sorry, like you're seeing that drift away because like you need to make money. So these products aren't making these companies money. So at the end of the day, that's all these corporations care about. They don't care any of this, what your characters look like. And if you can make a bunch of money with ugly characters, they'll just keep doing that. They're not, so that's why they're stopping. And that's kind of why all this was happening over the last 5-10 years. It's like BlackRock and various other companies that were doing this. Yeah, it's tied into, you need the money to make the game, and you can't get the money unless you meet certain stipulations. It sucks, but that's kind of how things have been going for a minute.
Left and right because they followed these awful formulas, prioritizing monetization over quality, ideology over gameplay. There has been so much money wasted. This is basically the state of Western AAA games. Like I said, depressing. I mean, these are supposed to be some of the best of the best. We're talking millions of dollars here, massive teams, huge historical successes, and somehow so many of their recent titles felt like they were made by people who just didn't care, or at least
they care, but they don't care about the thing.
And we're at the point now where it's become so easy to recognize that disconnect and the lack of effort. I mean, you can basically tell immediately when you see a new trailer whether or not the game is gonna be a hit or a miss. Yes, still looking at you and that beautiful glistening head. But all of this brings us to good news. When you look at what's been happening in the East, the small teams of developers in China and Korea are fighting to put out double and AAA games while facing these same pressures, and so many of them are succeeding. The passion for what they do is shining through. They're fully focused on respecting their audience and giving us, the players, what we want. Fun fact, Black Myth Wukong's team spent 4 years traveling around China to 3D scan real locations out of pure love and authenticity. You can feel how much they cared about the source material, story, and the characters. I love that little Buddha. And they shared that passion with us at every step. And you know what? It worked. Black Myth Wukong cost around $42 million to make and has sold over 25 million copies. That's what happens when players feel like someone actually cares about them versus trying to force things on them that they don't want. Stellar Blade gave us a beautiful female lead and calculated physics for every single movement, while refusing to compromise on a 60 FPS. The game launched pretty much bug-free too. That's them caring about our experience, and you can feel it in every animation, and the numbers prove it. Stellar Blade hit 3 million copies sold, with 1 million copies on PC in just 3 days when it launched on Steam. I mean, that's a legit accomplishment, right? A pretty protagonist and good gameplay.
They don't have exactly the same issues that we have in the West. I don't know exactly. I know they have to put up with other stuff from their various countries and corporations and whatever. But again, like I was saying before, it's a lot of stuff tied into the money that you get. And there have been many instances, and this is not an excuse for the corporations, but there's been a lot of times you've heard these companies that lend money say the craziest things. And if you were running a game company and you have to hit a certain number, you gotta go by their rules, even if their rules are stupid.
Really are an unbeatable combo. Another recent one is Lies of P. They took the Souls-like formula and crafted this haunting, twisted, Pinocchio-like world with such attention to detail and polish that showed genuine love for both the fairy tale and the players who love this genre. The market responded, and Lies of P sold over 3 million copies, hitting 1 million in its first month alone. And this also just gives me a chance to say, Eastern developers across the board are not afraid of making games that look good. Attractive, beautiful characters that aren't trying to check boxes, but are just trying to draw the player in and add to their experience and enjoyment. No intentional nerfing of their looks, no agendas, no ulterior motives, no nonsense. Just good-looking, pretty, attractive characters and designs. And I've said this before, but I don't understand why this is so hard for Western developers. Stop.
Yeah, it's the thing. It's like what I keep saying is there's so much behind the scenes type crap that that these companies have to put up with. It's like, it's amazing that anything gets out that gets through all this. Like, even though there's a little bit of wokeness in the Harry Potter games, they managed to make something that was pleasing to the audience. So, like I said, a lot of this stuff is starting to fade out because even the corporations that were pushing this stuff are no longer pushing it. So hopefully that means, I don't know exactly how quickly it's going to happen, but we will eventually get games to be like Western games will drift slowly back to how they used to be, because at the end of the day, they need to sell product. And if people are refusing to buy this stuff, they have to give people what they want.
Making your characters less attractive on purpose. But getting back on track, are all of these Eastern games perfect? No. I had the occasional frustrations with Black Myth's hitboxes, and I wouldn't say Stellar Blade's story is my absolute favorite, but here's the thing. They are trying. Just like with what I was saying earlier with Wu Chang, they're clearly trying. They're at least putting in the effort, and you can easily see that these developers are working to make something they hope will love. The genuine care still comes through, even if the execution isn't always perfect. Yes, we want to get our money's worth and don't want to buy broken things, but from what I've seen across the internet, we're not expecting perfection, even at the AAA level. If you can see that the developer is valuing and respecting us, we're genuinely pretty forgiving, right? And it's clear that these developers are at least attempting to do that and serve their audience well, even when they don't nail every single thing. The total gap and difference between the approach to development between Eastern and Western devs is just so massive at this point. It's almost like they're going in complete opposite directions of each other. One is obviously right, and the other thinks they're right while blindly charging ahead into the fire. And since we're talking about developers serving their audience, I feel like I can't make this video without at least mentioning that there are still some incredible Western indies who are fighting the good fight. Clair Obscur with Sandfall Interactive, pouring love into every story beat, accompanied by great gameplay, sold over 3 million copies, and now they're having meetings with Square Enix. I'm not a card girl, but Balatro was made by one person over 2.5 years and sold over 5 million copies, finding real success with its audience. Animal Well spent 7 years in development to create a highly praised Metroidvania that, during launch month, outsold every first-party Nintendo game on the Switch's eShop. Great job. And another Crab's Treasure, the Souls-like from Aggro Crab, reached 500,000 copies sold in just over 3 months, with the developer saying, "You can't engineer virality, but you can put heart into the game." Heart. That's what we're talking about. Baldur's Gate 3 has sold over 15 million copies. You can feel how much Larian loves this game along with its audience. Hogwarts Legacy sold over 30 million copies because someone finally tried to give us the Harry Potter experience we've always wanted. When you look at these games, you can clearly see a difference versus all the Western flops, right? The AAA disasters with their massive budgets will continue to be completely outperformed by developers who show genuine love, care, and appreciation. The pattern is crystal clear. When developers make games for us, we respond, even when the games aren't perfect. That response sends a clear message that developers who try will be.
As a customer, your response is whether or not you buy it. And just like how Marvel and various other companies are changing how they do stuff, that is because people stop buying stuff. And that is your biggest power. Complaining about it and sending emails and all that stuff, that doesn't work. What works is you not buying it.
Rewarded over developers who couldn't care less. And that message is creating a beautiful renaissance. You know that moment when you start a game and within minutes you're like, oh, this is going to be good. That feeling is coming back to gaming. Because when developers prove that actually caring about players works, it gives everyone else permission to care again too. When studios see Black Myth Wukong making $1 billion or Stellar Blade having immediate success on Steam, suddenly the whole industry has to choose. Start actually thinking about your players, or watch the developers who do care about us leave you behind. This success is spreading. More Chinese and Korean studios are feeling confident that caring about players works at a AAA scale, and they're branching out beyond Souls-likes into every corner of gaming. RPGs, horror games, action titles, bringing that same respect for players wherever they go. Just look at what's coming. Tides of Annihilation, which I'm super excited for, Phantom Blade Zero, Blood Message, Crimson Desert, finally launching hopefully, Project the Perceiver doing this philosophical storytelling thing, Showa, American Story, tackling alternate history. That feeling is coming through in every trailer, every gameplay reveal. These developers are trying to make something we'll love. And every game we buy is a vote for what kind of industry we want. When we support developers who make games for us, we're funding care over corporate nonsense. And right now, especially, our purchases matter because the developers who get it are fighting for us and fighting to keep that focus alive. Here's what I really believe. This isn't East versus West at all. It's genuine care and passion versus contempt and disrespect. Developers who build with their audience in mind versus studios who've stopped thinking about us entirely. And after all of the chaos that's infected gaming development over the years, I still feel genuinely hopeful. We're proving that our voices and our wallets do make a difference and that the future of gaming will be written by the developers who value what the players want. The Renaissance is real, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Are you feeling this shift too? What are some of your favorite games lately? Ones that clearly had a passion and respect for the player. I would love to hear your thoughts because honestly, my backlog is never big enough. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.
It is very nice to hear someone who is not jaded discuss this. It's no cursing, no yelling. But she got her point across, just like I was saying before. It is about the customer deciding what they'll put up with. You know, like people complain about, like I said it before, people complain about NBA 2K, yet they keep buying it. People complain about Madden, yet they keep buying it. Call of Duty, they keep buying it. Battlefield, so on and so on. You stop buying these things, then the company will change. They're not as beholden to that stuff with the, like I was saying before, as they used to be, because the people who are pushing that are not pushing it as much anymore. And they have been and they also have been infested by a lot of these people who think that these ideas that they're pushing should work, and they don't really care about the amount of money it makes. They just want to push it out. Just like the people who Microsoft has running Halo is completely destroying Halo, and they just don't care. As long as it's like it's their scalp. So that was a pretty good. I don't want to add my 2 cents, and I already looked at it. So please like, share, and subscribe. I'm gonna put a link to her video in my description and check it out. And I probably should subscribe to her. Like I said, it is nice to hear someone who is not as jaded as I have gotten, and I wish to get back to that, But that's life in the big city. All right, later.